Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. I hope you are doing well. And we're going to be talking about a lot of topics in this video, so get ready. We're talking about Kanye, Sevdaliza, the music industry, exploitation, engineers, leaked texts. So let's dive into this mess of everything starting right here. So apparently, post the release of Kanye West's new record, which you guys should know my thoughts on that by now, there have been some hacked texts within the inner Donda engineer circle. Now, in the lead up to the LP, it was very apparent from the outside view that like Kanye was working like a lot of people maybe to death to make this record come out in the speed that it was coming out. There were numerous jokes about like, Mike Dean being overworked. And if Mike Dean is being overworked, I can only imagine how it's like for those who are maybe further toward the bottom of the food chain in the Kanye camp. And maybe these texts give some insight into that. Starting with this one here, which looks like some text messages to Kanye West. They start off with Kanye saying, "Good morning, let's work," which was at 9:34 a.m. that day. And then 2 hours later, pretty much, Kanye is texting and saying, "You're fired, go home." The response being, "I'm really sorry, I have no excuse. I set an alarm for 7:30 a.m. and for whatever reason, my phone wasn't alerting me. I woke up at 11:08 to missed calls and got dressed as fast as I could. Lou was already on his way, so on and so forth. I didn't call back right away because I was in a panic trying to find a ride. I know this is unacceptable. I'm sorry." And Kanye West responding toward the end there, "Stop texting. Go find God. Come back after you found God." If this is like the most damning thing to come out of this leak, or, one of the most damning things to come out of this leak, I mean, this is not a great look, obviously, but it's certainly not flattering either. And look, this is the ugliness. This is the cutthroat nature of the music industry that we know to be the standard. Much of the music industry, especially the producer engineer circles of it, for the most part, are not unionized. So if somebody is kind of messing up or not doing what an artist wants them to do, or really, if they're just having any issue with them whatsoever, whatever it is, you could just be cut, you could just be fired. I mean, not to say that this guy's job would be saved by a union necessarily. If you don't show up for work or when you're expected to be there at work, union's not necessarily going to save you. You not showing up for work is going to look bad on the union. I know it's a lot of layers, it's a lot of mess, but what I will say to kind of sum this text up is that the guy being 2 hours late after 9 a.m., I'm not feeling, I guess, too sympathetic. This one looks even worse. "I'm back, guys. Yesterday, after 33 hours of Pro Tools, I got jittery, lost my sight, and then fainted to the ground." In music studios like this, there's a lot of long hours. And honestly, I don't know if it's entirely necessary. Having people pass out after 33 hours of Pro Tools, it's not going to lead to great quality work. Like, I know that you need to work hard, you need to put in effort into things in order for them to come out quality and be good. This video is not an argument against that you have to put effort into things for them to be up to a certain standard. But there's a certain point at which you can work people and even yourself past the full extent of your abilities, meaning that you're not going to be your sharpest, you're not going to be on your game, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to do stupid stuff. The product is not going to come out as quality if you had your wits about you because, I don't know, like you slept, you rested, you took a break. I mean, look, call me crazy. I know the music industry is competitive, and for any producer or engineer, it is like a once in a lifetime experience to do work with Kanye West. There is an endless line of horror stories in the music industry about like, top-notch or in-demand producers like not getting paid or getting underpaid or getting ripped off and so on and so forth. So look, I wouldn't sort of just assume it's the standard that Kanye West is paying his people very well. Didn't he rip off the Sunday service choir? Weren't they suing him? So, let's not jump to the assumption that like everybody in the Donda camp, everybody who was taking part in putting Donda together, were just like getting paid so much money. We have Sevdaliza putting up this little Instagram text post here. Unpopular opinion, you don't get off the grid quality of artistry without some extent of forced labor. As bad as those Kanye texts were, nobody was like really arguing that there has to be forced labor, or forced labor is a great thing, or forced labor. Think of what those words mean. Nobody was really making the argument that forced labor is some kind of necessary evil or a must when it comes to putting out any type of quality product. But sacrifices have to be made for greatness. Well, whose sacrifice is it? You know, it's one thing if it's your sacrifice and you're sacrificing your own time, your own energy, your own mentality. It's another thing when you are sacrificing other people at the altar of your ego in order to then, after the trail of bodies that you've left in your wake, you're then kind of like standing on top of the product and you're like, I am so great. Everybody tiptoeing these days, afraid to cross boundaries or to be exposed. But at the end of the day, your favorite song, your favorite shoe, your favorite garment, your favorite drink wouldn't be created if everybody in the process was in a comfortable state. All right, so a couple of things to unpack here. It's also, I think, another kind of telling on yourself situation to liken the forced labor, which you've kind of, those are your words, likening the forced labor of a music studio to what the forced labor of like a shoe garment factory or something? Are we talking about like, sweatshops right now? It's pretty well known to everybody that some pretty ugly labor practices exist within all of the industries that you're mentioning here. But just because that's the case, that doesn't mean we have to accept it. And that doesn't mean that that has to be the standard. It doesn't mean that we can't have nice things and still have people like paid well. Like, I don't get what is the connection, this assumed connection between things being quality, good product, things we enjoy, and living in an uncomfortable state and being in an uncomfortable state. Yeah, I just feel like this message is a big fat misfire, because while I feel like toward the end of it, she does kind of center it on the self, saying, sometimes we need to dig our own graves to feel like we're alive. Okay, well, I mean, if it was just you at the end of the day, working hard and working yourself to death to make your record good, nobody's going to stop you from that. However, if we were just talking about personal choices and just, deciding to work of our own volition on our own art, then we wouldn't be having this conversation in the first place. We wouldn't need to open this message up with, you don't get off the grid quality of artistry without some extent of forced labor. Once more, I'll sum this up again and say, I understand that good work, requires effort, may require a team of people, but I don't feel like you need to underpay people to get good quality work. I don't feel like you need to exploit people to an abusive extent to get good quality work. I don't think you have to have people up for 33 hours straight to get good quality work. And I feel like you don't need to undercompensate people to get good quality work. You can compensate people fairly, and you can have people working sensible hours and still get good product out, still get good records out, still get good anything out. All this message is doing is just like fetishizing this kind of pain and blood and sweat and tears narrative that, while is certainly compelling, yes, it does feel really validating after we've put a lot of effort into something for that effort to finally pay off. And it can certainly be a part of our dramatic little, trajectory success story. But I strongly disagree that it's a necessity, that it needs to happen, and it's some kind of like standard we just have to accept. And things can only be good through pain. Things can only be good through suffering. Things can only be good through me mistreating people who are working on my music for me. I think it's kind of bullshit, and that's kind of dumb. That's not really the truth. I think that's what we want to be the truth, because it sounds way more dramatic, and we want to just sort of not deal with the cognitive dissonance dissonance of realizing the world and the economic system that we live in is so ugly and so dysfunctional. It's easier to kind of just like rationalize the perversion of it than actually work against it. But yeah, I think this is not great. It's not a good look. You guys are the best. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments down below. Agree, disagree, fall somewhere in between. Love ya, Anthony Fantano, forever.